Hello everyone, welcome back to IT and Research Accelerator. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to analyze questionnaire data using Microsoft Excel. This video is especially useful for students in their final year projects, researchers who are just beginning, or postgraduate, undergraduate, anyone who has already collected questionnaire responses and you're now struggling with data analysis. We shall use a simple dummy questionnaire and dummy responses to demonstrate the entire process, step by step, in a beginner-friendly way. Let us get started. For this example, we are going to use a simple research topic, assuming that maybe we were collecting our data and our research topic was impact of social media on student academic performance. So, of course, the questions we are going to be dealing with will be in line with such a topic. Remember, at this stage, you have already collected data and you already had a topic and you're now just looking at how can I analyze this data. Our questionnaire contains demographic questions and Likert scale questions. So the demographic questions are these first questions. Base profile, like the gender and the age group. While the Likert scale questions are these ones where we are having a scale of maybe 1 to 5. It could be 1 to 10. It could be 1 to 3, depending. So the Likert scale responses include responses like strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. So the first phase is you had a questionnaire like this one. You went and people were able to fill in. Maybe someone chose the gender. For example, for my case, I would choose gender female. Someone came on age group, maybe they are between the first age group, 18 to 22, or in the last one, 28 years and above. Then when it came to the Likert scale, the person maybe when you were asking them, does social media affect their concentration? Let's say they said agree. Then do students spend many hours online? Maybe they chose strongly agree. Does social media support learning? Maybe they said neutral. So after you have collected the responses, please note this analysis can be for both online questionnaires and offline questionnaires. Sometimes we are distributing hard copy papers to different people. Sometimes we're just distributing an online link. Maybe you created it through the Google Forms or any other platform that you use for creating your questionnaire online. So when we reach the point of analysis, we're going to use the Excel for today's tutorial. We need to first of all open Excel where we are going to fill in the data. But this Excel, we are going to design it according to the questionnaire. For example, we are going to have the first column where we are going to put the respondents. We are going to have the second column. Second column, it's gender, but this is the second column. Let me just put background color. We are now working on gender. I need a color that is not so dull. Okay. Where are we getting gender from? We are getting this gender right from the first question that we had in the demographic. In the demographic section, the second question was asking about the age group. So even in the Excel where you're analyzing data from, the second category should be that age group. From there, you go back to the questionnaire and you want to see, after that, we have the Likert scale questions. And these Likert scale questions, for example, this has 3 questions: social media, was spent online, and supporting learning. So even in the questionnaire, we will have to show that question 1, please note, question 1 is this first question here. I just want to make sure we don't get confused. So maybe we can give question 1 color gray. We are now in section B, the Likert scale. So even here, to match them, this is the question 1. Question 2, still come back and you see online, students spend many hours online. Maybe we can give this, I'm just trying to give it different color codes. Okay, we can still give it gray because I don't want it to be dull. And then question 3. So after you have organized the columns with column headings corresponding to questions in the questionnaire, what comes next? Remember, at this point, for each row, these are the columns, the vertical categories of data. The ones that I'm highlighting are what we call columns. After collecting responses from participants, the next step, we are entering data in Excel. How are we entering it? We have started by getting different columns corresponding to the questionnaire. After that is done, we come to the rows. Now, each row represents one respondent. Each column represents one questionnaire variable or one questionnaire question. So, just for clarity, I can add another row and we see this was gender. This was the question on gender. Maybe you can just go ahead and retype. This is the question on gender. This is the question on age group. Here it is question 1 on the Likert scale. The second, this next column is question 2 on the Likert scale. And lastly is our question 3. So this Q3, Q2, it's just giving them code. That's if it's easy for you to remember. So this helps to organize the research data properly for analysis. So one important step in questionnaire data analysis is coding responses. Of course, when we code them, we assign numerical values to responses. For example, we can choose to say that strongly agree can take on weight of 5. We are coding it as 5. Agree, we are coding it as 4, because remember this is a 5 Likert scale, meaning that the maximum is 5 and the minimum is 1 because there are 5 components. So we can code based on that. Neutral can take 3. Disagree can take 2. We are just giving it codes. We are coding the responses. And then strongly disagree and take on 1. Remember, I mentioned that coding simply means you are assigning numerical values to the different responses. And why is it important? It helps us to simplify analysis and perform calculations easily in Excel. So, coming back to our Excel, here we are showing that respondent 1, when they came to the questionnaire, remember you're having questionnaires where you're picking this data from. So let's assume I'm the one who responded. I'm respondent number 1. When I came on the question of gender up here, I'm a female, so I chose female. You come and you put in female. When I came on the age group, assuming I selected 18 to 22, which is option 1. When I came here on question 1, where they are asking, does social media affect my concentration? If I agree, then you come and you say the user agreed. Question 2, did the person choose strongly agree? You come and you put. That is one respondent. But remember, you had a sample size. Maybe your sample size was 90, or it was 10 or 50, depending. So you come and you put the response for user 2. Let's assume user 2, when they came here on gender, maybe this time around they are male. When they come on age, maybe this time around they chose 23 to 27. So you come and you put 23 to 27. Maybe on question 1, they chose neutral. So come here and we put neutral. Maybe question 2, they chose agree. Question 3, they chose strongly agree. Strongly agree. Okay. So that is respondent number 2. Maybe we can give them a different color code. And then you're going to have another respondent. Let's say respondent number 3. Here, the third respondent. Still you're filling and filling. So after filling in the feedback, remember we are analyzing the questionnaires. Now we count the responses. Counting responses or counting frequencies, we want to summarize, and so when frequencies help us to determine how many respondents selected each response option. For example, how many respondents agreed to question 1? Remember, question 1 is saying social media affects concentration. So here you're more like asking, analyzing frequencies, you're more like saying 90% of the users agreed that social media affects concentration, while 10% disagreed. So these frequencies help us to determine, they help us to summarize frequencies in a very clear way. But still, we may not need to do it manually. Imagine here, it is easy to say one respondent was female, one respondent was male. But let's assume we are having maybe 1,000 records or 1,000 respondents. It means it can get tricky. So we can use different functions in Excel to do this summarization. For example, you would want to know how many of the respondents were female. Maybe let's add another respondent here and we make this respondent female. And then maybe their age range is 23 to 27. The rest we can just have these. Let's say they also agreed, but then we don't want to give them the same color just to differentiate our response. Or you don't have to give them color codes. I'm using the color codes just for demonstration purposes and for the sake of us understanding this tutorial in a better way. So our respondent 1 is highlighted here in blue, our second respondent in this orange color, and our third respondent in this green color. We are saying that the point where we are, at the point we are explaining this part of analyzing frequencies, and we are saying since these are very few respondents like theory, it is easy to count manually and say 2 of the respondents were female, 1 was male. But assuming you are having very many records, now there it calls for Excel functions. For example, there is an Excel function for counting. Maybe we want to count how many people are female. So we would come and specify and use, I'm just giving samples. For example, that count function, it's count. You see in Excel, the beauty is the moment you type, they suggest for you. So we want to count. After bringing the count if, you now specify the column that you're counting from. We are counting from column, this column of B. So we want to count from this first respondent up to the last respondent. And then after counting, what are we counting? We want to count and see how many were females. So you put the results of the count of what you want to count in these curly brackets, the criteria. You want them to count and see female. And then you want to see. So you see, it will count and it will return for you at 2, meaning that they are 2 respondents who were female. This formula counts the number of respondents who selected the option of female for a particular question. So this makes analysis easier and faster. But also, remember, we don't stop at this. That's why we said when we go ahead and we do the codings, you realize that instead of having agree, if we give agree a value of 4, here we'll be having 4, here we'll be having 5. So depending on how we are going to represent the information. But this is some of the ways in which we can analyze. We now go ahead and we say, out of the 3 respondents, 2 of them were female and 1 was male. What more do we do in this analysis? We do something called creating charts. Creating charts, for example, these 2 are female. So maybe we can come here and we say female, they are 2. Meaning that male has only 1 person. So, in creating charts, we mean visualizing findings better. So, you select the summarized frequency table. So, you go ahead, for example, here we have summarized the gender results. We've summarized them by coming up and clearly stating that when we went ahead and analyzed, the female are 2 and the male is only 1. So we put charts to visualize this information. And how do we do this? First of all, we select the data that we want to create a chart for, and then we insert the recommended chart. For example, if we want to use this data, we come here on insert. And usually there is this option of recommended charts, but if you don't need it, just next to it, there are different chart types. So you can choose to use recommended and they will show you the options of charts that you can use. Maybe you want to use this clustered column, you come and you select OK, and sometimes you realize you want maybe to edit it, make it 3D, put percentages, or put the values, and so on and so forth. Put a chart title, maybe a chart showing gender distribution, a chart showing the gender distribution of the study, maybe. So you have gone ahead to analyze now. After you have analyzed and you have visualized, these charts help you to present your research findings clearly in the report and presentations. Remember, after you have analyzed, you're going to move to the chapter of presentation of results in your report, whereby, let's assume maybe in your report where at that part where you're presenting findings about maybe gender distribution. Then you will now be able to pick this chart from your Excel. You come and you paste it in your report. I'm just taking an example. Remember, we are just using dummy data. You can resize it, and then you can be able now to put it in a report. Now, after analysis, the next step is interpretation. For example, if most respondents selected agree, you remember our questions here in the questionnaire. Maybe if question 1, social media affects concentration. If in your analysis here, you realize that majority of the people selected and agreed that yes, social media affects concentration, you now need to do what we call interpretation of results. If most respondents selected agree or strongly agree, this may indicate that social media significantly affects academic performance. Why do we go ahead and we interpret? Interpretation helps researchers to explain the meaning of the findings, because you cannot just say, okay, results indicated 90% chose agree. No, you need to put some interpretation and you inform us. These results are informing you, the researcher. You're informing us, the people going to review and read your work. You're telling us the meaning of these findings. Maybe doing research to collect requirements for developing a system. So you're informing us, you're literally explaining what these results mean. So there are some common mistakes that we sometimes actually make. Some of the mistakes that students make during questionnaire analysis can include you have entered inconsistent data, you're forgetting to code responses, you're using incorrect formulas, you're having poor interpretation. So we always need to review data carefully before the final analysis. So maybe for question 1, we can be able to even add another sheet maybe, and this time around we are looking at, or even this very Excel sheet, we can use it since we said we can code our data. Agree, just to be sure. We gave strongly agree 5, agree 4, neutral 3, disagree 2, and a strongly disagree 1. So we can just come here and we say this is 4, then the neutral is 3, then this is 4, this is 5, agree, we gave it 4, strongly agree, we gave it 5, neutral, we gave it 3, strongly agree, we gave it 5, neutral, we gave it 3. Sometimes you can even choose to take the 3 questions at once, whereby you can now be able to visualize and get charts that second grouped information, something like this, whereby this chart is showing us the responses for question 1, question 2, and question 3. Even if it was not coded, we can take it back, still it would show that this strongly agree, disagree, and so on and so forth. But the whole point is we want you to be able to interpret. So data analysis becomes easier with continuous practice and proper organization of your questionnaire responses. So if you are new to research, data analysis is easy. Do not worry. This is just a simplified way on how we can be able to do this data analysis. We analyze, we pick the information. Now we can be able to take this graph still, come in your report, and then put the graph there, write for us the meaning of these results. Maybe from the data that I collected, it is evident that social media affects the concentration of students. 90% of the users agree to this. Therefore, it means like there is an implication. There is something that these results are communicating to you, the researcher. At the end of the day, it is informing something. And it is that simple to analyze questionnaires. Very simple and very easy. In the next tutorial, we shall look at how to analyze interview responses and qualitative data for research projects. If you found this tutorial helpful, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more practical tutorials on research, programming, embedded systems, cybersecurity, and IT skills in general. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.